Well guys, you're getting more videos from me this week than you've ever gotten before because earlier today during their State of Play event, Sony announced a brand new Predator game. And I know what you're thinking, that's not gonna be good, but this one actually does look pretty cool. But before we get into it and all the details, I wanted to say thanks so much for clicking on my video. Okay, so this is an asymmetrical multiplayer horror game where one person gets to control the Predator with his awesome stealth cloaking abilities and his really cool shoulder-mounted plasma caster. And the other team takes the role of paramilitary soldiers who are going out into the jungle trying to get some loot and killing bad guys in the process. And if that all sounds a lot like Friday the 13th the game to you, it's because the developers of this game are IllFonic, the same team that worked on Friday the 13th up until last year. As for what consoles you'll see this game on, it's PS4 only for now because Sony is actually publishing it alongside 20th Century Fox. But I really wouldn't be surprised if we actually saw it on PC too on the Epic Games Store, because that's what's happening with a lot of Sony's second-party games like Detroit Become Human and Heavy Rain. Alright, so the big elephant in the room here is obviously that IllFonic's last game, Friday the 13th, the game is still in pretty bad shape even after tons of patches and being ported to Unreal Engine 4 and making tons of money after selling millions of copies. But there are some pretty key details here that are making me kind of hopeful for this game. For starters, 20th Century Fox, aka Disney, and Sony are probably giving them way more money than they ever had to work with on Friday the 13th. That game's Kickstarter was pretty successful, but games are really expensive, and during that time, they only had 4 people on their team. Thankfully, since they sold so many copies of Friday the 13th, the game, their team is a little bit bigger than 4 members now, and on top of that, while they were developing that game, they got a ton of experience working on asymmetrical multiplayer games, so they can take that and apply it to this new Predator game. And I'd really hope that the people they hired worked on multiplayer games before, because it would be kind of useless if they hired a bunch of single-player devs, right? Unfortunately, the trailer doesn't actually show us any gameplay, which sucks because I'd really like to see it, but it does look like they're working with graphics that are like a million times better at least than Friday the 13th the game. However, we did get some screenshots from the game over on the PlayStation blog, and while it doesn't necessarily look as crisp and clean as that initial trailer did, it does look pretty good. It looks a lot better than Friday the 13th if I'm being frank, and since all of the soldiers have helmets on, there's no risk of having Chad face. There will be no Chad face in this game. Thank God. Personally, I'm really excited for this game. One thing that I don't like about Friday the 13th and Dead by Daylight is that the survivors don't really have much to do and they can't really take down Jason. Now, I don't think that the paramilitary troopers are going to have an easy time taking down the Predator, but at least they'll stand a fighting chance because they have guns. I'd really like to know what the looting aspect is for the paramilitary troopers, because it would be awesome if this is like The Division where you go in and you do these missions and you have to collect a bunch of new gear and new guns, and the only way you get to keep them is if you escape the Predator. That sounds like a pretty compelling gameplay loop to me. And the PlayStation blog post did say you're gonna have SMGs and shotguns and sniper rifles, so it's not like they're going in to fight the Predator with a bunch of 9mm pistols or anything. And honestly guys, hearing that iconic Predator jingle at the end of the trailer instead of something from last year's kind of fun Trainwreck the Predator was like a sigh of relief for me. It shows that they're getting smart about making games that don't tie into movies necessarily, and they're letting them stand on their own while existing in the movie's universe. I don't want to let myself get too excited until I actually see some gameplay, but I really do think Predator Hunting Grounds has some potential, especially considering that a lot of Friday the 13th the game's problems could have been solved with more experience, more money, and more manpower, and that's exactly what IllFonic is getting here. I think we can kind of give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. And for everything that was and still is wrong with Friday the 13th, they really did nail the look and feel and overall atmosphere of those movies, like the entire franchise, which that was a monumental task that they took on, and for 4 people to achieve that, that's worth giving them some credit for. Alright guys, that's all I have for you today on Predator Hunting Grounds. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and if you're not subscribed already, I'd really appreciate it if you did and turned on the notification bell. As always, my name is Jimmy Champane, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.